And there's more people that find him out there than are finding him in here. So we have to remind people God's out there. He is the God of this world. He is the God that's in charge. He is the one that has this whole thing in his hand. He's got it in his hand. And he's got your circumstances and your situation and your sickness and your disease and your wellness. And he's got it all in his hand. And he loves you. Praise God. And we just need to begin reminding one another of that love. Okay, I want to share with you today having his presence in our midst. And what does it cost for us to have the presence of God in our midst? What's required of us to have his manifest presence in the present moment? Wherever you are, if you're driving your truck down the road, or driving your tractor across the field, or doing your dishes, or changing your kids' diaper, or whatever it is, what does it take to have the presence of God in that present moment? We're living now. I want his presence to be manifest now. I don't want to come up here and talk about what it was 20, 40, 50 years ago. I don't want to stand up here and preach to you what it's going to be like in 40, 50, 60 years, 100 years, or when we make heaven our home. But I want you to know the presence of God in this present moment. You have to know that he is here. We're not just after his attributes, but we're after an intimate relationship with God. You need an intimate one-on-one relationship with God. And to have that, he has to be present. I'm convinced, as much as I've ever been convinced of anything, that we have been satisfied with his attributes, but not his presence. See, we can have his attributes here in all the things that he does, the healings, deliverance, salvation, restoration, the dreams, visions, whatever you want to say is an attribute of him. And we can have those attributes, but not have his presence. But we can't have his presence without his attributes. And there are a lot of people today that are satisfied with the signs and the wonders. They want the miraculous. They want the earth-shaking, shattering things to go on. They want the excitement. They want all of that attribute. But I keep asking myself this question: do they really want his presence? Do we really want his presence? And it will come at the cost of us saying, if God never does anything again, if I never see him do anything again, if he never heals me, if he never brings fire and brimstone or whatever, that we would still serve him. We talk of the past revivals. We talk about the prayer meetings and how God's presence is being manifested, all over the country, from China, Africa, the United States, in Toronto, in Florida. And that's living in his shadow. That's feeding on the crumbs. That's living vicariously on someone else's leftovers. When you only serve God because of that excitement that comes, you're living on the crumbs. You're living on the shadow. You're living on things that are not the real deal yet. And we need to get his presence. And if it's a cost, is that we no longer have the attributes of what we think belong to him. That we need to determine that we're going to serve him whether he ever does anything else again or not. Whether I ever see another vision or have another dream, or ever see God heal someone or deliver someone, that we have to say, God, I will serve you if I never see anything again. That's living in his presence. But I also understand when he makes himself present, he shows his attributes. But don't live on leftovers. Don't live on the attributes. Live on the reality of his presence. We read, I thought this is to illustrate how can this best be illustrated. And I thought, well, it's like reading the National Geographic. You know, that magazine, and you read that, and it tells you about all the wonderful things, but you're not there. You're not there to see it. You're not there to feel it, or smell it, or taste it, or however you want to say that we experience that. And that's the way it is living on his attributes. We're just reading about it. We're just seeing the signs, but not the one who is responsible, who have brought those signs. So instead of living on these past, and some of us are even guilty on living on our past experience. God just moved so greatly in our lives in the past, and we talk about, and you've heard me say this before, that one of the things I've noticed when you get a bunch of preachers together, they never talk about what's going on now. They're always talking about on what those great revivals we had, those great prayer meetings we were in, those great times that God, but none of them talk about present day presence of God. And we cannot afford to live on the past experience. We gotta have it, his presence with us today, now. We have to have his presence so we can experience his attributes, but not live on his attributes without having his presence. We talk about great preachers, we talk about great prophets, and we talk about all these leaders as though they are idols, and we can only speak in hushed reverence as we dare whisper their names. And we plaster our homes with their evidence. But it's not the real thing. I read a lot of books. I've watched a lot of videos. I've heard a lot of